Welcome to the City of Madeira Beach Planning Commission meeting, Monday, June 7th, 2021 at 6 p.m. in the Commission chambers. This meeting is now called to order. May we please have the roll call?
Anne-Marie Brooks.
Here.
Robert Preston.
Here.
Eric Gaither.
Here.
Ray Kerr.
Here.
Michael Wyckoff.
Here.
And Chair Mike Noble.
Here. We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum, sir.
Agenda item 3, public comment. Public participation is encouraged. If you are addressing the Planning Commission, step to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
And Miss, could I make the point? Oh, you're just reading it off him. Okay.
Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and do not include any topic that is not on the agenda.
No, that is on the agenda.
That is on the agenda. Public comment on agenda items will be allowed when they come up. Any public comment? Moving on to the approval of the minutes from May 3rd, 2021.
I move we accept the minutes as presented.
I would move that we make one change. Commissioner Preston was not in attendance at the last meeting, and he is listed on our roll call as being here.
Oh, okay.
I'll amend my
Good catch.
motion to reflect that change.
Got that. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, we have a first. Can we get a second on the approval of the minutes with the change?
I'll second that.
We have on the agenda, the item on the schooner development. We've received a request to continue that item, and this was the item to discuss the development agreement, and on the development agreement item, the petitioner has asked for some additional changes they think will make it work better in terms of when the phasing goes into place. So we need to get all of that worked into the item and brought back to you. In addition, the item will be continued from the Wednesday meeting as well, because those have to go together. So the second reading of the zoning will also be continued until July 12th. And in that case, we've discovered there was a error in notice, and so we've got to pull that back and renotice that. So together, everything will then be continued until the July 12th meeting for the Commission's reading of the development agreement and the second reading of the zoning, and you will hear the development agreement in your meeting, which will be on should be the 10th of July. No, because we will not open the item up for that.
Can we go back on that, Linda, for public comment?
Sure. Well, my only concern is that, well, these are quasi-judicial items, and so if you're not actually hearing it tonight, you should reserve all your comment to when you're actually voting on something. That would be my concern, that it relates to a quasi-judicial process.
So the answer is no.
Except that they cannot discuss a quasi-judicial item except when it's been appropriately opened and advertised. So if they're not going to open that item, there's a quasi-judicial It's not on this agenda, but they do know that it's coming before them because they've already voted on the PD on that item. And so anything that they heard tonight, they would have to declare as ex parte communication later, which may have an effect on how much weight it's given. So in order to preserve the full weight of your comment, I would recommend that it's done when the quasi-judicial item is open and everybody has been sworn in. Again, it's just that the item is a quasi-judicial item, and there are very strict state legal requirements on how we take comment on that, and I want everybody's comment to have its full weight and legitimacy in the hearing process as described. I'm not trying to put you out, I just want to make sure that you have the full. Yeah, that would be great. That would be fine. As a matter of fact, if the group would like, we can actually set a meeting where people can come in and talk to me directly and get all the questions answered, and we can make sure we're providing all the adequate information for the community. But I just don't want to discuss the item in front of the board members in any detail. Yes. Yes, there will. That'll be here on the 10th of July and at the City Commission on the 12th of July.
I believe we're going to be here on the 12th of July.
It's the 12th and the 14th?
Yeah, it's a Monday.
12th.
And everybody is allowed to send an email to the city with any questions?
Correct.
But it's going to be a planning meeting, so you're only limited to three minutes of asking questions.
Correct. But you can send any questions to them via email, all you want.
At any length. And sometimes that's a great way to do it because you can get all of your detail written down, and it becomes part of the hard record for sure. So that is a good way to do it. Those procedures are set both by the city and the state in terms of how processes work for quasi-judicial hearings, and everybody will be sworn in at the time that they testify. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we won't be meeting on the 5th because that's the federal holiday for the 4th of Independence Day, 4th of July.
Correct.
So we'll move it to the 12th.
We don't have an attorney present. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to read...
Is there any meeting relating to this on June 9th, or is that fully tabled?
They have requested it be continued. So my anticipation is they would not discuss it at all on the 9th either. If you want to leave us, if you don't mind, if you want to leave me your emails, then I can make sure that when we get the copy of that, we can send it out. But we'll be re-advertising and noticing everything to make sure everybody knows what the schedule is.
So the Schooner Development Agreement for tonight's meeting has been pulled from the agenda and will be heard on July 12th at our next Planning Commission meeting. Everybody is more than welcome to send an email to Linda at the City of Madeira Beach with any questions and have your comments for our next meeting. Thank you. So moving on to new business. Agenda item 5B, floodplain memo. Does the city have anything to?
It's very important that we move on the floodplain ordinance because we had started talking about this, you remember, several months ago, And then I kind of pulled back from bringing it forward because the county had gotten their new inundation studies in, and they wanted us all to consider the county data before moving forward and adopting standards. They've been kind of delayed in their approach to getting it out to the public, and so at this point we really need to go ahead and adopt the FEMA maps, the new ones that have been in proposed review for basically 3 years now, because they become effective August 24th, and we have to have adopted them before that time, so we only have just enough time to do that now. So we're going to move ahead with that. If later on the commission or the community or even the planning board wants to planning commission, wants to take up the issue, discuss standards, the county's standards, we can come back and do that and consider that subsequent. We're always able to adopt or change our own ordinances as long as we have adopted the minimal standard required for FEMA. And there is quite a bit of difference between the county's data and the FEMA data, and I hopefully explain that to some extent here in that FEMA's data was collected between 2007 and 2012. If y'all been living out here, you know it's been a lot more active in the hurricane world. On the coast, the sea level rise has gone up faster than was projected, and the storms have been coming in higher numbers and in more intensity. And the county's data was collected up through 2019, so it has a different set of storms. And when they applied their storms to the model to try to anticipate flood levels, it came out entirely different than FEMA's. In some cases where FEMA showed that the flood level would be going down by a foot, the county had it going up by 2 or 3 feet. So that kind of discrepancy is frightening. We need to have a better sense of, you know, if we're facing a different scenario with sea level rise, we want to know about that, but it's something that as a community we need to review in more detail as to what areas are most impacted. I will tell you that the areas most impacted by that difference are those that are in stacking areas, which are, for instance, up at Safety Harbor in the Old Smart area, the water gets pushed in there, it's got no place to go. We have a bit of a stacking at our bridge here, so the water comes in the pass. You saw what happened during the flood there. It'll stack up against the bridge in that area that's on the ground and then kind of wash back because it can't get through. So things on the north of the bridge didn't get as much water as things on the south got a lot of backflow. So that some areas have more of a stacking effect following storms. So we're going to be looking at that with the county in more detail and bringing that back again. We did look at the county's data for anything that pertained to the specific sections of the floodplain ordinance that we have to review, and we're always looking at the floodplain ordinance, usually once a year, to make sure that no regulations have changed. If there's best available data, new data has come in, then we're really supposed to use that. That's part of the issue with the county's plan, is that truly accepted best available data, and if that's the case, we need to incorporate it into our plan and our policy. So we tried to take that into consideration. I apologize ahead of time. There's some typos on my memo. I did not get it back for review, and I apologize for that. But the purpose are the areas that we've got covered for you here quickly. Is that we propose amendments including a reference to the flood insurance rate map to become effective on August 24th, 2021. That's the one we absolutely have to make. The amendment is proposed for the section dealing with the method of calculating improvements, because the method we have now quotes the ICC numbers, and those are an average of construction costs. They're supposed to consider regional costs, but they're an international average, and you know the difference between what it costs here and say what it costs in San Francisco are markedly different, obviously. And even within our region, what it costs to build out on the island right now is higher than what it's costing interior. in landward. So what we were proposing is that we go to a software that's more regionally based, because there are some costs that are not as high and some costs that are higher, and we want to use something that pertains to the area. So we are recommending the software-based on regional data that's specifically designated by the building official. The staff recommends also increasing freeboard height from 2 to 4 feet. I know that sounds like a really big jump, but everybody's been coming in with really big freeboard anyway. Most people are coming in 3 to 4 feet above our freeboard now because they see what's happening with sea level rise and just don't want to have to deal with the possibility of changing insurance rates are being affected by that kind of thing over time once they're building new. To explain, freeboard, everybody's property has a base flood elevation designated for it, and each community decides how much you can either build at that level, your living form needs to be above that, or the city can adopt what's called freeboard and say a 1 freeboard would be 1 foot above that is your designation. And currently, this city has a 2-foot freeboard. We're proposing it goes to 4. We really don't think it'll surprise anybody because, as I say, they've been going over that anyway just for their own protection. And some of that's in response to, if we say it's new information they've been getting on storms, they're able to estimate the impact of the water level and storms off of the bay. When FEMA first put their maps and their policies together, they only estimated surge from the sea side, the Gulf side, the beach. And places like us that have water on all the way around, they never had any data before in any of their maps to deal with how much surge or wave action you get off the bay. And they know that there are certain areas now, after they've looked at an overlay of 300 storm activities off the bay, to determine that we get a wave run-up of 1.5 to 2 feet even off the bay. So if we say that your flood level's at 15 feet, and we don't count the wave run-up, you've got people building at 15, even though they're going to get slapped repeatedly by waves of, 1.5 to 2 feet. That's why if you ever look at the storm videos, you'll see that they post for big hurricanes. You'll sometimes see a video where somebody's filming from their top, their second floor, and there's water slapping against their sliding glass door in their deck. And, in our business, you always think, wait a minute, why is that floor 2 feet below the wave action, and how is that appropriate place to build? That didn't protect them at all, And it's because what you're seeing is that distance between the base flood and the wave. So to better protect properties, if we have things up a little bit higher than that, when those 2 feet of wave come in, you don't want them hit in your house. You want it all below the structure of the house even. So that's our proposal. Your comment and your recommendation to the commission will be included in this as you discuss that. We also provide specific definition for the purpose and use of fill. We listed septic tanks as prohibited, which of course nobody builds septic tanks out here. They're not allowed anyway. But if we specifically list it in our floodplain ordinance, then it helps give us points towards reduced insurance costs for the landowners, the property owners. Expand the definition to include the newly defined coastal A zone and its associated measures. And again, when they looked at the bay and the effect of the storms off of the bay, they decided they needed a new zone that, although you're in A, if you're in coastal A, you're in that area where you're going to get what they call low to moderate wave run-up, that waves somewhere between 0 and 2 feet. So some areas that used to be just A are now designated as coastal A by FEMA, and that has implications to building style. So if you're in a coastal A zone now, you would not be able, for instance, to completely enclose your garage any longer. You'd have to leave it open or have collapsible walls because it will be regulated by FEMA as if it were a V zone, since it's getting wave action on it. We also updated some administrative references, because codes and laws change all the time, and then their numbers change, and if we're making reference to them, we have to try to keep up with that. There are other areas in the code that address building in the floodplain, and we propose that those areas also need some additional review and amendment, but we'll bring those back to you separately because they are in different sections of the code. And those include seawall height, drainage and runoff management, construction type, landscaping options, definition of building height. The areas that are being amended are, and cross out or underline, and I think I've covered them mostly. I think there was one additional thing on the very back. Of my review, I missed section 94-144, the title. I missed adding "and coastal A zones" to that title. You'll see elsewhere things are underlined where it used to say V zone, and now it says "and coastal A zone" for the requirements of FEMA and its new maps. So the staff recommends amendments as presented with the addition of the amendment to section 94-144 to add the coastal A zone reference.
I have a question for you. Back on page 46, which is section 94-50, information for development flood hazard areas, where we're talking about raising the freeboard up 2 feet. I think that was the area where are we also addressing that in the other areas of the city ordinances that relate to overall height, to extend that overall height?
Yes, that's why we listed in the additional areas to address the definition of building height, because right now we define that as you measure building height starting at the base flood elevation, which really doesn't even provide for that first 2 feet.
Right.
And we want to make sure that we're measuring starting at the freeboard.
The freeboard number, okay,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
On that, where was the height section?
It's not in here. It's
No.
listed in the other sections of the code. That's why I listed it as one of the other areas that we'll be bringing back adjustments for.
Okay, thanks.
Linda, I have a question. Basically, it's always been the FEMA regulations that determined height and freeboard and stuff like that. Is that correct?
No, freeboard is something that the local government gets to adopt if they want to. They're not obligated to have a freeboard, but it would cost us a lot of CRS points if we got rid of the freeboard.
If you didn't have freeboard. I'm not questioning that. So I was looking at fiscal impact. It is fiscal impact to the builders, whether it's 2 foot or 4 foot. So there is a fiscal impact, correct?
Privately, when we look at fiscal impact, we're only supposed to estimate the city's fiscal impact. That's why there's nothing under that section. But yes, there would be to the builders or to the property owners to build another 2 feet up. It's not a huge amount of cost because if they're on columns or piers, it's just that increment of an extra 2 feet on your column, not the whole. It doesn't really affect the rest of the building design.
Okay, with that in mind, have cities had any problems with liability based on, or because and I'm using you have FEMA protections and you have projections and you have county projections. The county projections indicate a worse scenario than the FEMA projections.
Yes.
So the city will be, if adopted, you're looking at adopting some of the county projections for rules, is that not true?
They are not included in here per se yet. If the commission or the plan board wants to recommend that, commission can decide that they want to use those measurements instead of FEMA's, but right now I'm only presenting the FEMA map because they haven't had a chance to review the counties really and its data sources.
Okay, thank you.
Question? Do I understand the coastal A zone classification to exceed what the FEMA zone is for much of Madeira Beach as far as having that wave action? Because I think much of Madeira Beach doesn't include the wave action.
Correct. The map specifies where the line is for coastal A. It's a FEMA map line.
So it's following the FEMA
Yes.
firm? Okay.
At this point, if they decide to go to the county's inundation, it may have some impact on that. I have opined on that we need to be careful that some of the county's recommendations that are from the county floodplain are not necessarily required by the map, even if the map changes. For instance, currently coastal A zone requires that residential properties be treated as V zone properties, but commercial properties are allowed to flood-proof on the ground. This is really critical to some island communities because, for instance, in Treasure Island, I believe their entire commercial corridor is in A zone. And if treated like a V, they would not be allowed to have any more retail on the ground. And in the event that they had to replace, they would have lost their entire economic base because retail does not survive off the ground. So I have suggested that since FEMA does not insure retail or commercial, that the commercial properties should be allowed to continue under FEMA's policy of floodproofing and let the business community effectively self-insure, which they do. That should be an option for the commercial property owner because they're not taking FEMA insurance money anyway. And that way you don't have to shut your whole town down. At one point, we recently talked to some of the planners from the county, and we're really concerned about some planning issues and impacts on our commercial areas. And their response was, "Well, you plan to just fade Madeira Beach out anyway, right?" I said, "I'm pretty sure that the town is not proposing to fade themselves out." So you have to, really take a look at the impact that those policies are going to have and whether there's ways to make the community stable at the same time. And you make plans to address sea level rise and everything else, but at the same time be aware that all those policies have implications and they're not all required.
Okay. I'm just curious about the comments about the coastal A zone and the collapsible walls and...
Those are FEMA requirements.
Are they new to the new firm?
Yes. That coastal A was never there before. And we've been advising people all along since, I think the map first came out, early 2018 officially. And we've been, when people come in to do development, I've been going over both the new and the old maps so they knew what was coming. And let them know what their, what the FEMA was expecting and what district they've been in, if they're going to be in coastal A, when the regulations would change and how it would affect them, why those regulations are there. And as I said, most people have decided to go higher, but if they're in coastal A zone now, up until this gets adopted, they have not been choosing to necessarily just have the seamed walls that are collapsible. Some went ahead and used the old standards and just went up higher. But that won't be an option now because as of the 24th, FEMA will be enforcing their new map and their new designation. It's important for us to adhere to those for the insurance base rate that everybody pays. We get a 15% reduction right now because of our rating in the CRS program, the National Flood Insurance. program. And if we started backing away from those or not adhering to FEMA's policies, we could actually lose the entire discount. That issue is particularly important because the first thing they do with the review is they randomly choose projects that have been built within the last, if they're using a review of 5 years, and then if they look at the elevation certificates. And if the elevation certificate doesn't adhere to the map at a rate of, I think it was 95% correct, and they haven't adhered to it exactly, and that includes typos or errors of any kind on the elevation certificate, they will throw you out of the entire program. So it's the first level of review, 95% correct elevation certificates, or they don't go any further, you're just out. So we manage a really tight record-keeping process and review over those elevation certificates and the construction process. And I know some people will say it's really not comfortable having to build in the floodplain anymore, and maybe think the governments are going heavy on them, but it's what we do to protect everybody's insurance ratings. It's a really difficult process to be that perfect all the time, but they have no flexibility in dealing with the FEMA, the designation and your height.
Thank you.
Linda, I
Yes.
just have a quick question. On the amendments that will be coming to us on the land development, what kind of time frame are we looking at to see that, to have them catch up together?
It's going to take us a couple more months to get that stuff back on your agenda because if you've been following news of the day, we've been working on land use. We have to update the comp plan, and we have to update our land use maps for the Johns Pass and the commercial corridor. So we have several additional things that are going on right now with our whopping crew of 3 here. And probably I think that we can get those pulled together within a couple of months, though, because they're pretty straightforward. We've already identified them and have made them on our map, so I think that we should get it back to you pretty quickly.
Any other questions, Commissioner? We open it up for public comment. Any public comment? All right, thank you, Linda.
I do have one more question.
One more question.
I was reading on the, and didn't understand about the concrete slabs. I think I read in one portion that they could not be more than 4 inches thick, but then in another section that they had to be more than 12 inches. Yeah, right here in 63 of 65, 94-141, have a maximum slab thickness of not more than 4 inches.
Those are in the V zone specifically.
I was confused by it because on one portion I was reading, you want it to be able to break up and not become something that's going to flood into and damage other properties, but then you want it to be sufficient so that it's...
Can you give me the other citation on the 12-inch?
Yeah, I think it was further in. I was reading it earlier today.
That's the 4 inches is the very, almost the end.
Okay.
Oh, I see it.
At the bottom there. Yeah. Has a vertical thickness of 12 inches or less, and that is in, no, wait a minute.
That is in addition to the requirements.
A deck or patio that has a vertical thickness of more than 12 inches. I don't know, there's some confusion in there I was having.
All right.
Robert was asking what page?
63 of 65.
I think the difference is on 94-141, this is concrete slabs used as parking pads, enclosure floors, landings, decks, walkways, patios. You're right, because this does include decks and patios.
You're right, the decks and patios was the big piece.
Those two go
Okay.
together, yeah, and then they,
And I was just trying to make sense of it.
I will look at, yeah, I don't know, because those things have been in there for a while, haven't they? Came from the state's, regulations, so I will have to look at those. If you want to make a recommendation to move forward, you would, specify that we would clarify that contradiction before getting to the city commissioner, that you recommend additional review on that item before the commission votes on it. This will be going to them in July, so we'll have time to do that.
So the staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments?
Yes, given what we just heard, with the condition that any conflict between sections 94-141 and 94-142 be resolved and explained at the city commission for hearing.
But we also have one other meeting to review the changes.
Well, we wouldn't be coming back here normally. Generally, what you'd be doing is approve or recommend denial or approve with conditions. You can deny it. At this point, since we're going in July, you could continue it for that one question. It makes it a little different. In order to get it on the city commission agenda, I'm going to go ahead and have to agenda it now. But I can do that and still come back to you with a report and a recommendation.
I guess we're going to see it in another reading, the final reading for approval, or we approve?
No, you have one opportunity on legislative to make a recommendation. You're advisory, because this is not quasi-judicial, so it's in advisory. You make a recommendation to the commission, and then they have to have two readings.
I think there is a difference here. If you read the language in 94-141, in coastal high hazard areas, concrete slabs used as parking pads, enclosure floors, landings, decks, walkways, patios, and similar non-structural uses are permitted beneath or adjacent to the buildings and structures, provided they're, and then with the thickness of not more than 4 inches. Going down to the subset 4 on section 94-142, this is something that is separate from the structure. And it says if the deck or patio has a vertical thickness of 12 inches or less, that is at natural grade or on non-structural fill material similar to and compatible with local soils, and the minimum amount necessary for site drainage may be approved without requiring analysis of impact on the diversion of floodwaters. So that's relating to drainage, not the structural integrity of it. And the other section 94-141 is for those that are attached to or underneath the structure itself. This appears to be a separate item, like a whole separate slab, if you will. Like if you were to have a patio off to the out back.
But it says adjacent. Adjacent wouldn't necessarily be connected.
Right, but this is if it's under 12 inches in thickness. This says it can't be more than 4 inches, so 4 inches is less than 12, so it applies.
I guess I'm just confused on why they would want, I'm still not understanding why you would want a maximum thickness of not more than 4 inches. You're going to pour a pad for a deck or whatever. Why would they want to limit that to no more than 4 inches? I'm not saying it wouldn't be required.
That's a better question, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just questioning the whole.
Is that normal construction protocol to have a parking slab of 4 inches or less? It would seem that it would be thicker than that, and that your pool deck could be 4 inches thick because you're not parking vehicles on it.
Right.
Yeah, your pool deck would be a perfect.
Yeah.
You know, are you going to have a problem with building codes?
But the PSI load on a parking deck is going to be substantially higher than a pool deck, so we'd think it would need to be more than 4 inches.
I'm just questioning the whole.
I'm thinking the word "not" is not supposed to be in there.
I'm questioning, yeah.
I would like to come back with an explanation and a chance to read it without lots of things going on. My brain is not as nimble as it used to be.
We can all relate to that.
So if we recommend to move forward, we can still make the comments with additional review of these sections.
Yes,
Make that part of the,
right. And then I can get comment too from the building official. He'll know better what sections these are referring to in the building code.
And there is a little difference in those two sections, that one is only in Zone V, and the other one is Zone V and Coastal A.
Okay,
Right.
good catch, right?
that's true.
Yes, that
I
took
just
some-
think that the word "not" may be the word we're fighting over, that it should, maybe
Maybe.
"not" should not be there
Also, once approved, it doesn't prevent us from bringing it back
for
into,
review.
True,
for review again,
yeah.
if we catch something. So it doesn't prevent that from happening. Thank you.
Okay, so we can make a motion with further review on 94-141 and 94-142. Oh, go back to the public comment.
Tom Edwards, protected address. Your slabs for your parking usually is 4 inches thick. The apron is actually usually 6 inches thick. That's required. So I don't know how that would affect you, depending upon how close it is to the slab of the house and everything. That might be something.
Correct, yeah,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
You want me to do this?
You seem to be the best at it.
All right, I'd like to make the motion that we recommend approval, as presented by the city, subject to clarification of sections 94-141 and 94-142 as it relates to the deck and patio thickness, and resolve and/or explain that potential conflict.
And if I may suggest, with the amendment to 94.
Oh, and the amendment to
144.
94-144 to add the words at the end of the title, "and coastal A zones."
I will second that.
All right, way to go. Good job, everybody. Can we get a second?
We got a second. And
Oh.
seconded.
Oh, thank you. Sleeping up there. Can we go to the vote, please, Linda?
Yes, Anne Marie Brooks,
Yes.
Robert Preston,
Yes.
Eric Gaither,
Yes.
Ray Kerr,
Yes.
Michael Wykoff,
Yes.
Chair Mike Noble.
Yes.
Thank you.
My motion's passed unanimously.
That's awesome. Good job, everybody. On to agenda item number 6, old business. There's nothing. Agenda item number 7, administrative/staff presentation. Agenda item 8, I'd just like to remind everybody, if you'd like to have something to place on this, you have to email Linda so she has time to get it into the agenda. But we have nothing under Planning Commission discussion for this evening. Our next meeting, due to Independence Day being on a Sunday, the national holiday is July 5th. Our next meeting will be July 12th, 2021, at 6 p.m. I guess we have to vote to approve the new meeting date to accommodate the July 4th holiday. Do we need a motion for that, Linda?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion that we move the July 5th meeting to July 12th in observance of the national holiday.
Can we get a second?
I'll second that.
Oh, Mike seconded.
Quick on the draw.
You felt a little left out there. Can we go to the vote, please?
Anne Marie Brooks,
Yes.
Robert Preston,
Yes.
Eric Gaither,
Yes.
Ray Kerr,
Yes.
Michael Wykoff,
Yes.
Chairman Mike Noble.
Yes. Thank you, Linda. And agenda item number 10, informational materials, nothing. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.